So this internship, this coming year will be our 6th year doing it, so it changes just slightly every year, but what I'm going to talk about is what is conservation social work, both this internship as well as the course that's offered in Kenya each December are basically founded on this concept. So it's a little bit non-traditional in terms of thinking about what social workers typically think about as their role in helping and ensuring health. Because conservation social work includes looking at health of the environment, health of other animals, and health of humans, and how they're all interrelated. So, and just to define it more succinctly and professionally, we have written a definition, and it is that conservation social work expands the social work ecological model that focuses on persons in context to the consideration of natural environments, interrelations with non-human animals, thoughtful stewardship of natural resources, and advocacy for environmental and human health and sustainability. So that is really what we try to look at the entire time that we're on this particular internship. So, and it is 6 weeks, if you didn't know that. We usually leave right after graduation, so you guys finish finals, support the cohort ahead of you through graduation, and then you come on over to China. We do that for fairly specific reasons, and that's because China, this part of China does have a pretty heavy rainy season. So, and that's usually mid-July through August. And so what we want to do is kind of get you in and then out before that starts. Ethan can speak to being evacuated from a nature reserve due to torrential rains. So we kind of want to get a lot of that over with before dangers start, not just for you guys, but even for the local people that we work with on the trips. So I'll actually skip this slide, but one of the main thrusts of this particular internship, because our host in China is a conservation center for endangered species, is looking at the loss of biodiversity. And if you're not familiar with sort of that term and whatnot, I'm sure you can kind of imagine what it means, even if you aren't very familiar with it. But biodiversity just means all of life on Earth. Everything from tiny microorganisms that we very, very rarely pay attention to unless they make us sick, to whales and redwood trees and humans, of course, are all included in biodiversity. And unfortunately, what's happening now due to human behavior is biodiversity is in drastic decline, to the point where it's becoming so dangerous that it's impinging upon human health. And so this is where social work comes in. Because if we are so degrading the health of our Earth, of course that means that the survivability of our species is in jeopardy as well. And so we really need the power, I would say, and knowledge of social work professionals to address these issues. The issue is so severe now that we know that about every 20 minutes a species somewhere in the world goes extinct. And actually I need to update this even from last year. We now know that it's almost exactly 1,000 times the natural rate of species extinctions. And during that same amount of time, about 20 minutes, somewhere in the world, about 1,200 acres of forest are being cut down. So we like to grow up thinking that when we cut down forests or build a new home or something like that the animals just move, right? And they don't. There's no place else for them to go. And so we are driving what's called now the 6th mass extinction event on Earth. So these things are sad, of course, because most of us kind of like to have plants and animals on the earth with us. But it's also, as I mentioned, impinging on human health, because biodiversity literally is what allows for humans to exist on this planet. Without biodiversity, we will also go extinct, because biodiversity is what regulates Earth's climate and buffers natural disasters, cleans our air, cleans our water, provides fertile, healthy soil, and of course allows for food security. Provides medicine, materials for our shelter and clothing, healthy child development. I won't go into that today, but we definitely will talk about that a lot if you join this internship. Companionship, just knowing other animals and other creatures are out there, is important to us psychologically, even if we don't think about it on a daily basis. Also massively important in terms of thinking about global cultures. Almost all global cultures have massive amounts of traditional knowledge and reverence and symbolism through nature and other animals. And it just makes our world beautiful and interesting. So bringing this into the context of China, unfortunately, can be quite devastating to think about, and I'll let Steph and if Ethan wants to contribute to that too. I think they both felt it while they were there. But what we already know is that biodiversity declines in China are some of the most severe with human health and social stability, which is very rocky in China. Those impacts are already prevalent. Seeing things like massive use of pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers that, of course, kill a lot of other living organisms but greatly impinge upon human health, is widespread. Air quality is almost unimaginable until you actually experience it for yourself. Already massive water shortages, huge problems with invasive species. We won't talk about that, that's a huge issue, but loss of topsoil and dust storms, increased impact of natural disasters, and disconnection from nature. All of these are stories in and of themselves, but we would talk about them at length. So just so you know kind of the location of this particular internship, Chengdu is the city where the interns live and work. And then also we work in areas, just for your knowledge, because our main host there is focused on giant panda and red panda conservation. The red dots that you see here is the last remaining habitat for giant pandas in the wild. This lime green kind of area is actually where giant pandas existed before the human population explosion. So as humans started to dominate and overpopulate the earth, the habitats and the life possibilities really for other species have been shrinking. And so Chengdu is really the hot spot for looking at conservation of biodiversity in southwestern China. So that's kind of the home base. But then we do travel actually to one of these little pockets, this little skinny one right here, which is called the Liangshan Mountains, and that is where we host summer camps for local children that will be very different from the families and the people that you meet and see in the cities. In the cities, people are pretty, some are extremely rich. You will see more Mercedes-Benz and BMWs and all of those kinds of cars in Chengdu than you've ever seen in Denver. That doesn't mean people are rich, it just means that they're investing a lot in cars. But then out in the rural areas, you will meet children who live in very small, oops, that's the next one, sorry, structures that may look like this with a dirt floor, and the pigs sleep right next to them at night, and very, very just completely different experience. It's almost like you've gone to another country when you leave the big cities in China and return to the rural areas. So the components of this particular internship are learning about and actually practicing both conservation and humane education, learning about international biodiversity conservation and how that's related with human health. You get to work alongside university students, your peers, and I can let Ethan and Steph talk about how amazing some of those people are. You also visit a community organic farm, which is really important to start looking at how some people are taking on these problems and trying to create solutions, positive solutions for human health and environmental health. We run the summer camps. We also look a lot at animal welfare, so if any of you are interested in the Animal Assisted Social Work Certificate, this is very relevant to you. And any of you, of course, that might be considering the Sustainable Development and Global Practice track, this is also, this internship fits in very well. And you also have the chance to study some of the language and the culture with one of our Chinese partners, because you shouldn't learn that from me. You should learn that from a person from the area. And I don't know, but we're still hoping if Alex is available. So I was going to kind of let Steph talk about typical days, like what kind of jobs you did, what it looked like, riding the bus, noodles. Don't get him started on noodles. And I have a few slides of some of the things if you want to use them, but don't feel like you have to.
Okay. So typical days are pretty structured. We got up and had to be down ready for the bus at around 8. And then we walk about 20 to 30 minutes depending on the weather. If it's raining, you walk a little faster. But that was probably some of the most enjoyable stuff because you got to see some of the local community and culture that was happening every day. People buying their breakfast, walking their dogs. We walked through this really cute little park where people are doing Tai Chi and dancing. So that was really kind of a peaceful start to the day. You get on the bus and it's about
a
half hour travel, but it's a very nice bus, nothing like the public transportation here. Lavish, seats with headrests and curtains and all that stuff provided by the research base. And then we go and we do what we call interpretation. So what these interns are doing with the bone models, they're not actual bone, is using those as kind of a talking point with the people that visit the base. Now, the majority of them do speak Chinese, so the chances of you being able to communicate with most of the people there aren't very high. But there are a lot of foreign visitors. We met people who came to Chengdu just to go here and see the pandas and learn about what the base is doing. So there are plenty of opportunities to speak with English-speaking visitors to the base. And you just talk to them about pandas, about the skulls that you have, the arm that you have. There's a little model of a baby panda that looks like a rubber, I don't even know. Yeah, it's pink and rubber and small. And yeah. So it's kind of a perfect way to interact with people, and then you can get into conversations that are a bit more pertinent about habitat loss, about the degradation of the planet and what it's doing to the local species in these countries. We got in some very valuable and very profound conversations with some students from other countries who didn't even know some of this stuff was happening. And so you can really see the impact of your conversations right then and there when you see the light bulbs come on with some of these folks about what they're learning from you. And by no means are we panda experts. By no means were we China experts or extinction experts, whatever you want to call them, but we definitely had enough information that we were able to talk to these people and kind of shift some perspective or even just give them information that they didn't have. So that was probably one of the more enjoyable experiences. It is tough because you do sometimes stand around for a while, but there's a panda within 10 feet of you that you get to hang out with all day. So I'd say as far as office space, it's pretty nice.
As long as you have bug spray on.
Yes, bug spray is key. After that, we get back on the bus, and the bus brings us home, and we kind of have the night to ourselves. That's where the noodles came in. There are plenty of little local restaurants and stores and shops that you walk around in on your own streets. There's also cabs that are really accessible, or what they called rickshaws, or the little bikes and motorbikes with the little like 2-person carts behind them that you could ride in. There were 3 of us, so fitting 3 of us in there was interesting, but we did it. There's also malls. We didn't go there very much. You know, that's not what we were really there for, was to go shopping. But you get to sit and talk to the people, and you can go and eat dinner and eat, you know, on the weekends you're gone most of the time, but you just get to know the people in your neighborhood, and they start to recognize you. And they, you know, say hi, and that might be all they're able to say to you, but the fact that they're like excited to see you is pretty cool. And then we went to bed, and then we woke up the next day and did it all over again. The weekends were spent with our Chinese colleague. His name is Alex. We're not sure if he'll be the same person this next summer.
He just graduated, so
yeah, he might have a real job. But he is fabulous, and what he is kind of there for, and what's also, from what I remember, woven into the course fee is cultural experiences. So he took us to the highest standing Buddha in the world, which is literally carved into the side of a mountain, and this thing has been here forever. Like I don't even know if Ethan knows how long it's been there for, but it's literally, I have photos where I'm this big and this thing is monstrous. We got to go to a place called Go, which is a national park that has the bluest water in the world. It's literally turquoise, the color of that bag and that laptop combined, and those phone cases over there. It is beautiful. We got to go to the local Chinese markets and the art markets, which was just an experience in and of itself, because you see the local culture, and you also see some of the situations where people really are, you know, making their living selling their bracelets on the sidewalk. And you can communicate with those people very little, but it helps to have your Chinese colleague, whoever that will be. But you also just get to see, you know, the beautiful stuff that comes out of that country that we don't get to see. You know, we went over there joking, why are we going to bring anything back? Because everything in America is made in China anyway. But the local stuff really is stuff that, you know, we don't see here. And it was just a fabulous experience. Where else did we go with Alex? The Buddha, the park.
The art, yeah, the park, the art market.
The art market. And then the other, about week and a half, 2 weeks, where it's summer camp. And that's what Sarah was referencing when we went to that little red area that she showed you. So last summer, the 3 of us interns were sent to 3 separate summer camps, and we each had a team of Chinese colleagues plus a staff from the Panda Base that we went with, and we held summer camps with these beautiful children. And it's all day, every day. I think my team had a day break in the middle. I know some of the other teams didn't have a break at all. Some of them slept with the children in the dormitories. You know, they stay where the children stay. We had a different situation, so we stayed close to the school but not at it. But you get to interact with these kids who you can't communicate with, you can't speak to because they don't speak English. So it's very interesting figuring out those dynamics of how am I going to communicate with these children when I can't even say hello, or that's all I can do is say hello and goodbye. And they are completely enamored with you because you're probably going to be the only American that they're ever going to see. And so they just love you, they hold your hand, they climb on you, they want to give you kisses, and it's just the sweetest thing. But you can also, that's all you need to communicate, and that's kind of what was most impactful for me. I haven't done a lot of work with kids, and so when I went there, I didn't really know what to expect. But just knowing that these kids, you know, love you and they really don't know you at all really speaks a lot about the effect and the impact you can have in their lives. And then part of summer camp, your Chinese colleagues will do a lot of classes, we do a lot of activities. It's more activity focused because, as we all know, small kids don't sit still for very long. But we do teach them about the animals living in their immediate surroundings, because these kids do live in the nature reserves that are set aside specifically for the animals to have a safe, protected place to live. We teach them, we go out on nature hikes, we do scavenger hunts, we provide lunch, we give them snacks, you get to hang out, we play games. I should give some of our photos to add so Sarah can add of these kids just shining faces, and it really is one of the most rewarding experiences that I got out of this internship. But then part of that is you get to become really close with your Chinese colleagues who, in our situation, I'm sure it'll be the same, but I don't know, do speak English, so you aren't the only English speaker there. And you go to dinner with them and you wake up with them and we played cards at night and we had our nightly meetings to kind of debrief about camp that day. It was a little difficult just because English is their second language, so they're not 100% fluent. So sometimes when you're at dinner and everyone else is speaking Chinese, you are just kind of hanging out. So I think one thing to maybe be prepared for is just being comfortable with being unable to communicate all the time. So being on your own, at summer camp, it was fabulous having our Chinese colleagues, but there were times where I didn't speak for a couple of hours just because there was really nothing for me to say and no one for me to speak to. And that was mostly at night when I was, in my room with my Chinese roommate who was chatting all night. But Jinchuan, yeah. But
she has a baby, so
she does.
I'm sure she was checking in with them.
was watching her videos and stuff. But it was also something that kind of, I'm an introvert by nature, and so it's something that made me learn how to be comfortable. I'm usually comfortable not talking, but that's because it's my choice to not kind of talk. And so kind of learning how to be comfortable just in a situation, especially if you want to do international work, where you kind of can't communicate all of the time. And it also kind of threw into light the importance of having some language skills if you are going to work in another country. And so we did learn some very basic stuff before we left, but if you guys are serious about going, I would maybe recommend getting a few more words than hi, goodbye, thank you, and how to count to 10 kind of thing. But after summer camp, we came back and the internship for us was over. I know Ethan, they were there at different times during the year, so I'm thinking you guys are going the same times that we did. So I think summer camp will kind of be the end. But within that, we got to experience some things that, there were beautiful, very heartfelt, profound moments, but there were also moments like that on the other side where we saw, shelters where there were 4,000 cats and dogs and this one woman is trying to take care of them. And a lot of them are sick. A lot of them have fur falling out in clumps, but all they want is love, and all they want is, the attention that one woman and her, handful of team members can't provide. So that was definitely a hard experience, but something that I think, or that probably made the biggest impact on me as far as the animal welfare piece of this internship. And I know it had a huge impact on my other interns that went. One of ours actually brought a dog home from there who has, neither of his front legs are functional, and we found him trying to hop up a hill covered in mud. And it was just something that none of us could walk away from. So she ended up bringing him home. And I know we all would have brought them all home if we could have. And then there was also the Chengdu Zoo, which I'm not sure if you guys will get to visit.
Yep, they'll go.
Okay, which is nothing like our zoos. Our zoos have the pretty greenery and the perfect, little, I don't know what they call them, enclosures that try to match the animal's natural habitat as best as they can. And, it's just a different culture, different respect for animals. A lot of them were birds in a cage, and literally that's it. They may have had a pole to sit on. There were no trees, no greenery, snakes with rocks to crawl on, that kind of stuff. And so those kinds of experiences were hard, but I think they were also necessary for us to really see the importance of the health of the animals and how humans have a huge part in that. And then we went to the Gao family farmer up there, the Anlong Community Organic Farm, which was fabulous. It's an organic farm, 100% self-sustainable, ran by the Gao family, who are just the most gracious, giving people you'll ever meet. The best food I ate in China was Grandma Gao's food. She took walks with us every night. We helped their family build a little tea stand on the beach. And it was just an experience to see how they live. Literally, their living room is a dirt floor, and Grandma Gao swept it every day. And she took such great pride in her farm, and so did the rest of her family, and they all worked together, and the sons now run it, and Grandma and Grandpa are there, and they cook, but I think they have a little less of a role in the actual functioning of the farm, but it's a family endeavor, and they all are there to support each other, and the wives have stepped in and also kind of filled that role as well. I think that's a cultural piece. But those kinds of things, I think, just kind of put the bow on it. You know, it's something that I went not knowing what to expect. I had done no international travel of this type. I think I was out of the country twice before I went to China. And I was nervous and I was scared. I didn't know what to expect. But it's something that has changed my career path personally, has changed the lens that I view social work through. And I am in the SDGP concentration, and I'm also getting the animal assistant certificate. So I think if you want that profound experience that you will not come back the same person. And I think this is definitely the place to go. It's not Switzerland. You're not, in the richest city in the world. You are pretty far from it, actually. But it's also great because of this concept of One Health, which I don't know if Sarah actually called it that, but the idea that animals, humans, and the planet are all connected, and you see it, you're immersed in it. You see the impact that billions of people have on the planet and the animals, and you see, these kids at summer camp bathing in the river that's the color of mud. And so it really is a 100% immersion experience, and if you really want to learn about how all those things interact, then I think it's perfect. And it's also great for people who love working with people, and we're all social workers, right? So I think that's all of us. And I know I'm open, Whitney and Sky, the other girls that went, are open to more questions. We have tons of photos. If you have any specific stuff, we're more than happy to sit and chat with anyone individually or go through emails. But it's definitely something that every day is busy. You definitely never have a lack of stuff to do or a lack of places to go check out. I think we had one weekend where we didn't have anything to do and we slept, I think, for like 20 hours. But it was a well-needed rest. But the relationships you build, I still talk to a couple people that I was there with through WeChat, and they're my friends, and I care, about them, and I don't think that will ever change. So that's my 90-mile-a-minute version of China.
That's kind of how you feel when you're in China, that life goes 90 miles an hour. And then you get home and then everything's like, nothing's happening. It's really an eerie almost sensation. Did you want to say anything?
I don't know what I can add to that. You did a really good job explaining it. Yeah, I think I had a really similar experience. I was only there for about 2 weeks, but I got to see almost all of the places that you visit on the internship, and some of the same cultural sites. I thought it was really cool that there was some flexibility kind of on those cultural days, that you could be like, oh, we want to go see this holy mountain that's a 2-hour bus ride. So we spent a couple of days hiking up this mountain, which is you actually hike up a staircase. It's these series of staircases that go up this massive mountain.
And you will be sore.
Yeah, real sore. So that was one of the options. The giant Buddha that you mentioned was another really cool experience that's really close. Summer camps. The learning really doesn't end. Like, there's kind of like those internship placement sites, and then there's those kind of more informal cultural days that are a lot of fun, but really, like, they're both very, like, you're just kind of learning the whole time, and the cultural experience is very strong. So it had a huge impact on me, just those 2 weeks there, and I'm sure the 6 weeks is even much more so. We've got a series of videos that we're publishing. We've got one available now online, and we've got about 5 or 6 more coming out that detail each one of those internship sites, and then a few of the cultural experiences too.
Let's just watch a little clip.
Sure. So this
Ethan produced these. So.
Yeah, this is the first one we published, which was aimed more about kind of the idea of conservation social work and sustainable development.
This is a really important time in China's history. They've been a little bit of a sleeping dragon and now have risen to be a superpower. In the meantime, the stresses on their wild habitat have just grown exponentially. I've been working for pandas now for 14 years, and when I started working in Chengdu, there were 8 million people in Chengdu. Now they're saying there's probably at least 16 million, and they're predicting 26 million people in this city by 2030. And so I think it's really important for people to come to our base. Of course, we want them to fall in love with the pandas, and then we really want them to face reality. We want them to understand that we have not saved them. One of the tasks of the Institute and the Graduate School of Social Work, of course, is having meaningful internships for our students. And we have several that can happen abroad, and this is one of them. The Giant Panda base here will host 3 students each year to intern at the Panda base, but then also to explore a lot of the other issues, environmental issues that impact human health throughout Sichuan province. This year we have with us Kristen Nelson and Irina Rasner, and they were chosen specifically because they have unique skill sets. Kristen Nelson is part of the animal-assisted therapy concentration. She's also very interested and has been studying the human-animal bond, and so we utilize those types of skills a lot, especially in our education programs. We've been able to draw upon Irina's skill set in nature appreciation, team building, and outdoor ed in order to enhance our summer camp programs.
Conservation education, I've always been passionate in ever since I was younger, and then even in my teenage years, and then more so when I worked in Utah, just understanding that you have to take care of the land and conserve what has been here for eons longer than any human being. That to me has always been the basis of my heart. So going into rural parts of China and just walking around the street and seeing how nonchalant it is to just drop trash and there's no consequence. How we go to the zoo and the bears are being fed any kind of food you could imagine, even plastic. But it's difficult to be teaching these bioconservation lessons and education and playing games like bat and moth and talking about trash and let's go on a nature hike and listen to the bats. And then people around you are smoking, puffing away, smoking cigarettes into the faces of the teachers, into the faces of the babies. And then throwing the cigarette butts. We needed to constantly question and kind of say, okay, where do we step in?
Yeah, and I think with like any kind of international social work, that balance of knowing when your perspective is getting in the way of a relationship or understanding a situation. I think coming into a foreign country and wanting to help with the issues that are specific to that country while being a foreigner has some really big challenges to it. And so understanding that perspective and that privilege that comes with being a foreigner in a country where you're trying to help, you have to be really sensitive to what you say and what you do and how you approach things when you want to maybe educate about, you just threw that cigarette butt on the ground. Maybe you should take it over there to the receptacle because, I mean, this is what we're here to teach. I think that's been one of our biggest challenges. I started this internship with a really deep and sincere passion for both animal rights and environmental conservation. Being in China has put a different perspective on it. It has brought a lot of animal welfare issues up for me, just because animal slaughter is so blatant. It happens in the middle of the street. You see a lot of homeless animals everywhere, free-roaming animals, animals that aren't healthy, animals that are sick and starving, animals that are tied up. I think that's been really rough to see how many animals that are tied up here, or animals that are caged that will be killed very shortly
on the street
for somebody's dinner. I think that's so that type of animal issues definitely happens in the States, but it's a lot more covert. It's behind doors. You don't see it. I've always known that it's there, but it's been very emotional being here and having it in my face.
Going into the internship, I did not know much about animal welfare. I'm aware of factory farming in the States. When I order a chicken in my tacos, I don't think about necessarily what chickens were killed and how they were killed. I don't really know if an animal's been treated with respect as it has been killed. So the animal welfare piece, for me, significantly increased. Much more awareness and understanding and sensitivity, appreciation. I've always loved animals, but I've never really had a bleeding heart like I think I'm developing. And then we went and visited the Bear Rescue Center, and it was just that much more in your face. Like, you see the cage. We all saw the cage. We could have touched the cage that a bear had been in, and that's terrifying. That shouldn't happen. And it's still happening. It's just crazy. And then everything else, shark fins and turtles and ivory poaching, it's just, it's ludicrous.
We also see amazing wisdom in the young people. People are aware. They are afraid, literally afraid for their safety.
And the people that we've worked with who work at the panda base, the Chinese university students, the families running the sustainable farms in Anlong, and continue doing it and see the development happening on the other side of the road. And we ask them, what do you think? And they're like, we don't want our land to be taken away. I grew up here. I don't want to go. That's what our grandma said to us. So communicating with all these people who are from this country is hope.
So maybe this problem is it's not that big deal in America, but this is really big deal in China because there are so many people, and the people's education is kind of low. So especially my parents, their generation, or my grandparents, their generation, the two generations, they don't have the higher education. Just take example, my generation. I'm a university student, and my many friends, I think we really care about the future of China or the environment stuff or just like the trash. We really care about this.
There is a lot of potential for change, and I see this in people like Alex and his friends, and I truly believe that there is a lot of strength in the younger generation here. So I'm excited to see the kids grow up and lead a new generation into kind of keeping a cleaner environment here, because I think it's important not only for the people of China but for the whole world, because it's, this is the only world that we have. So it's really important that we protect it and that we keep it clean, and I have faith that someday we'll succeed.
And what I think is exciting about China is that they can do it. They have effective ways of communicating with everyone, and they have an awareness. And what is important for especially Americans, I think, to realize is that China is helping lead Asia. And so if China can set standards that will be better, it will be healthier, will be more constructive for the future of humanity, Vietnam will follow, Thailand will follow, Laos, Burma, other countries. China is the power of Asia. And so, the Panda Base has a really important role to fill. And in fact, we are recognized by the Beijing government as an environmental education provider site for the entire country. And so we can reach a lot of people within our message. And so it's an important time for people all over the world to be watching what China does, and encouraging and clapping and cheering them on, because pointing fingers and saying, oh, look at your rivers, they're so crappy because you treated them poorly and things like that. Well, read the tag on your t-shirt and then point fingers because you were part of it if your tag says made in China.
I think being in a country and looking at their animal welfare issues, looking at their environmental conservation issues, it makes us more accountable in our own country. So when we go home, we can be like, this is my country. I can speak from a different place, and that makes me more accountable.
And to own it.
And to own it in a different way than you can, I think, internationally.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a take-home message too.
I'm sure that it has been eye-opening, and that's really the point of this experience, as well as our experiences in Kenya and Bosnia, and just to see how different cultures are coping with the changes to the environment, to different risk factors that humanity is facing. I think, if anything, I hope that one of their biggest takeaways is that our environment is something to be treasured and protected. Seeing the graphic results of human domination of our planet is very in your face in China.
I really feel like, we've talked about this before, that we feel like this is a start of a lot of things for us. So the things that we've learned here and our lessons that we've gained through this experience is just going to propel us forward, to be advocates for everything we've seen here and learned, and just continue our own personal growth and how that helps both animal welfare and environmental conservation.
Like, is there more that can be done on a smaller scale and then grow to a larger scale? So my brain has started ticking with like, okay, well, could I go to that country or this country and learn, and then take a role like Sarah has here and be a mentor and a teacher, and be humble enough to say, hey, this isn't my country. I don't live here. I get to go back to my country that has very similar issues. So how do you balance that? I think that's where the conservation education part of it has increased for me.
Every culture has different ideas on how to approach these problems, and by working together we can be more effective as a species in turning things around and protecting this beautiful earth that we've been given and we need to be treating a little bit better. One of the most important things we can do is help any global effort to promote family planning, education. Those are the most important things that we can do. Another thing that we can do is just really, really think about our consumption habits. Everything we buy, everything from a pencil to a hamburger to a bag of potato chips, let alone something like an SUV or a 5-bedroom house. Simplify your life, enjoy being outside, enjoy your family and friends, reconnect with nature. All of those kinds of things are a much healthier lifestyle, and will hopefully allow for all the other creatures on Earth to subsist for a little while longer with us.
So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Do you guys have any questions or concerns or more you want to know?
Do you take a class beforehand, like the spring quarter?
Nope, you don't. We don't have that, but we do have several meetings basically to prepare. So it's not like something you. When did you guys register for the actual for spring term or
During spring, I think.
Just where you would apply, I guess.
Yeah, well, applications, I'll actually open those up if you're interested after now kind of having a better idea of what it entails. Just email me and then I'll send you the application form, and it's just a form that you fill out, and I do need 2 letters of recommendation, and I explain what types of people need to write letters for you. And then once I have all of those in, then we'll do interviews, because I need to learn about you, because you'll be representing GSSW and the University of Denver and the United States, which is very important. And so I need to understand kind of, your personality and where you've been and how you think you would handle these. Steph was really kind about things, but you're not always comfortable. This is, it's not at all vacation. It's hard work and sweaty and hot and buggy, and so you kind of have to be up for all of that and still be happy, and not fake happy. We want you to be really happy, and we don't want you to be miserable. And so, and then If you are selected to participate, then you register. You can register either for 0 credit or 1 credit, and you do get about 200 hours towards internship. But whether you can apply that to your next year internship is completely up to your site that you choose for next year. Some, like at the Institute for Human Animal Connection where Steph is, we can allow for her to use some of those hours, but some sites can't. They really need you to stick to the hours that are already prescribed. So, did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. I'm like, did I forget anything?
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks.
Any other questions? You do live in a hotel for when we're in the city. I should explain that to you. This last year, the internet didn't work, and so we're either, if they don't fix that, we're going to change to another hotel. But you actually live in my neighborhood where I have lived for about 6 or 8 years now, and so I can help get everybody oriented. We're very close. If something happens, I can be there in 5 minutes, from my apartment and stuff like that. So it's a very safe neighborhood, and so that's sort of the living. But then when you are, say, at the farm, then you're in a dormitory. When you're in the schools, you're in a dormitory. So you have several different sort of living situations.
So would you prepare your own food if you're living at the hotel, or do you just like go and buy it?
You kind of just, it's the adventurous part of
Yeah.
do you want to talk about that, you guys?
You do probably come prepared with knowing that you have to purchase usually dinner and lunch. Breakfast the hotel provided. But it is incredibly cheap. I think we ate dinner with like a bottle of water or a soda from the convenience for like $2.50 US. So it's incredibly inexpensive. There's a grocery store within walking distance. You can buy bread, peanut butter, jelly, snacks, chips, candy, soda. So you can get the food in. Some of it's interesting, and we definitely have fun trying stuff out. But you do have to purchase most meals. And on the base, when you go there, unless you bring ramen or a peanut butter sandwich, you will be buying food there, and they do only have 2 places, and one of them we didn't go to but once. So if you want some variety, I guess expect to bring lunch most days.
Food is pretty cheap,
It's extremely cheap.
and you will become addicted to noodles. They're much better than any noodles you can get in the United States.
Yeah, so this does not count for a class then for spring quarter.
No, it's strictly internship hours. We hope to run a class. We tried running a class 2 years in a row, and we didn't get enough people to sign up. And we kind of figured it out that it's actually much, much cheaper to do the internship. And you get to be there 6 weeks instead of 2 weeks. And so most people just were like, I'd rather do the internship. But we're hoping to open up a course again, but maybe not. It wouldn't probably be available during your time period at GSSW.
And then only 3, sorry. Only 3 students go.
I can take up to 5. And it all just depends on how interviews go and, letters go and how many people apply, but I can take up to 5. Any other questions?
Would anyone like me to leave my email address in case you have any more questions? Yeah.
You can talk behind my back. Real dirt.
Yeah, totally open to any questions or requests. Yeah.
And you know where to find me. I'm happy to answer questions too.
And Ethan's always here. And so if you go home, think about it, take the budget, talk with whoever helps you with money and planning and all of that. And if you do decide that you want to apply, then just email me and I'll send you the application form. And it's just questions about you, that I want to know, your experience with kids, your level of concern sort of about these global environmental issues that are impacting human health, those kinds of things, how you see this fitting into your career path. And you might not know that completely right now, and that's okay. but hopefully this gave you a glimpse into what kind of learning experience it would be.
The interview process really wasn't, from my perspective, super stressful. I think I took it more as informational for Sarah, because she does need to know that the people who are going to go are going to fit. And so it's not like, oh my God, am I going to say the wrong thing? It's just, maybe it's not the best option for you. And luckily, there are plenty of other places, so don't freak out about the interview or the application or anything like that.
Well, thanks so much for coming, you guys. And I'll hope to hear from a couple of you at least.
Yes.